This story is brought to you by a generous grant from a kind fairy and a magical talking frog who wanted everyone to enjoy hearing wonderful tales. Once upon a time, deep in the heart of a sun-dappled forest, lived a sweet little girl whose bright red hooded cloak made her a familiar sight along the winding forest paths. Everyone in the village knew her simply as Little Red Riding Hood. Now, one day when the morning glories were unfurling and the dew still glistened on the grass, Red Riding Hood's mother packed a basket with fresh bread, sweet butter, and homemade jam for her grandmother who wasn't feeling well. "Take this to your grandmother," she said. "But remember, my love, the path through the woods can be deceiving. Don't stray from the well-worn trail." "Yes, Mama," said Red, tying her cloak and skipping out the door. The forest path wound under the emerald canopy of ancient trees. Patches of sunlight flickered on the mossy ground as Red skipped along, humming a merry tune. As she walked, the sound of her own footsteps and the rustle of the trees lulled her into a peaceful quiet. After a while, Red emerged into a clearing only to find a large wolf lounging on the grass, his eyes fixed on her with a knowing gaze. "Well, hello there, little girl," he said, his voice dripping with honeyed charm. Startled by his sudden appearance, Red instinctively held her basket closer. "Where are you going all by yourself?" the wolf asked, rising to his paws and trotting closer. "I'm taking some food to my grandmother," said Red, eyeing the wolf suspiciously. "She's not feeling well." "Oh, how kind of you," said the wolf, licking his chops. "And where does your grandmother live?" "Just past the big oak tree," Red replied, not wanting to tell him exactly where she was going. But the wolf had already worked out the route to her grandmother's house. And with a careless flick of his tail, he offered, "Why don't you pick some pretty flowers for your grandmother? She would love that." Red hesitated, torn between her desire to please her grandmother and her lingering unease about the wolf. Seeing her uncertainty, the wolf added, "Don't worry, child. You can pick the flowers here in the meadow. It will save you a bit of a walk." His words, smooth as honey, eased her troubled mind, and Red found herself agreeing to his suggestion. "That sounds like a wonderful idea," she said, and wandered away from the path into the fragrant meadow, intent on picking a bouquet of wildflowers for her grandmother. Meanwhile, the wolf, with long strides and silent paws, slipped back down the path toward her grandmother's house. Reaching the cottage, he knocked on the door with a dainty little paw. "Who's there?" called her grandmother from inside. Weak and frail, she had no way of knowing it was a wolf, and not Red who stood outside her door. "It's me, Red," said the wolf in a high-pitched voice. "I've brought you food and flowers." "Come in, dear," said the grandmother, her voice trembling. The door creaked open, and with a swift movement, the wolf leaped inside. In a flash, he engulfed the poor woman in his jaws, and with a final gulp, she disappeared. The wolf quickly pulled on the grandmother's nightgown and cap, placing the glasses on his snout. Then he snuggled into her bed and waited patiently for Red to arrive. A little while later, Red returned to the cottage, her arms laden with wildflowers. She knocked gently on the door, her heart lighter now that she had something pretty for her grandmother. "Grandmother, it's me," she said, unaware of the danger lurking within. "Come in, child," said the wolf, attempting to sound like her grandmother. Red stepped inside and stopped in her tracks. For a moment, her eyes widened in surprise. "Grandmother, what big ears you have," she said, noticing the wolf ears poking out from under the hood of the grandmother's nightgown. "All the better to hear you with," the wolf replied in a deep voice, his ears twitching nervously. Red took another step closer, her eyes gleaming with innocent curiosity. "And what big eyes you have, grandmother." "All the better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf, his voice shaking slightly. Red finally noticed the glasses perched precariously on top of the wolf's snout. "And what big teeth you have, grandmother," she exclaimed, reaching out a hand to touch them. "All the better to eat you with," the wolf roared, leaping out of bed. With a terrified squeal, Red turned and ran for the door. As she fled, the wolf pursued her, his heavy paws pounding on the wooden floor. Just then, a woodsman who had been chopping wood nearby heard Red scream. He dropped his axe and charged into the cottage. Spotting the wolf, the woodsman shouted, "Stop right there, you beast!" The wolf snarled, baring his sharp fangs and lunged at the woodsman. But the latter was ready for him. With a powerful swing, he brought his axe down on the wolf, who yelped and collapsed to the ground, defeated. Panting heavily, the woodsman rushed to Red, who had collapsed by the door. "Are you all right, child?" he asked, his voice deep and concerned. Red, her eyes wide with fear, could only nod her little head. Then, kneeling beside the fallen wolf, the woodsman cut open its belly, and out popped the grandmother, shaken but unharmed. "Oh, grandmother!" cried Red, rushing to her side. Overjoyed to see her alive, the two embraced tightly, whispering thanks and relief in each other's ears. Turning back to the dead wolf, the woodsman shook his head. "Clever, cunning beast," he said, "but kindness and courage are stronger than any trick or threat." Then, chuckling softly, he helped the grandmother and Red to gather up the scattered contents of the basket. As they sat down to share the bread and jam, Red couldn't help but shiver, remembering her narrow escape. "I should have listened to Mama and stayed on the path," she said, munching on a piece of bread. "That was a close call," the grandmother agreed, "but you handled it bravely, child. That makes me very proud." The woodsman nodded, his eyes twinkling. "The forest can be a dangerous place," he said, "but with a brave heart and a clear mind, even the youngest can overcome the greatest fears." And so, in the cozy cottage near the old oak tree, 3 figures shared a simple meal, their bond strengthened by their shared ordeal. The memory of that day lingered in the forest like the scent of pine and the sound of birdsong, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope and resilience can shine through. As for Red Riding Hood, she never strayed from the path again without her mother's guidance. And whenever she saw a wolf in the woods, she remembered the valuable lesson her grandmother and the woodsman had taught her, that the greatest strength comes not from size or power, but from courage and kindness. And with that, my little friends, our tale has come to an end. What did you think? Did you like our story? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, no matter what adventures await you, you can face them with a brave heart and a helping hand. Now go forth and spread kindness like wildflowers in the forest. Until next time, goodbye.